I run the biggest team here in the office. I have 500 agents, and we did just almost $1.45 billion in volume last year.
How in the world did you manage to become the leader of that team? Lindsay, for those who maybe aren't familiar with the roles of real estate, titles, et cetera, can you just share a little bit about how do you introduce yourself to others in the real estate profession who kind of understand what's going on? When you say, hi, I'm X, what's X?
Yeah. So I wear a couple of hats, so it really kind of sometimes depends on who I'm talking to, right? In the Keller terminology, my official title with Keller Williams is a team leader because I run the biggest team here in the office. I have 500 agents. We vary between 500 and 510 agents that basically, although I'm not the broker in charge, I am who everybody ultimately rolls up to. You'll sometimes hear us introduce ourselves as the team leader. Sometimes if we're trying to relate a little bit better, we'll say in the corporate world, like this would be the closest thing to a CEO role. And so really that's what it is. It's, consulting, budgeting, hiring, running leadership teams, and things like that. So that's really what this role is. And then sometimes you'll just hear me introduce myself as an agent because that might be one of the hardest titles I worked for.
So we've got agent, team leader, CEO. And can you share a little bit more? You said around 500 or so agents in this office. Can you give us the quick highlight stats too of like maybe total sales volume last year, anything else that you want to call out just for a sense of scope and scale for the listeners?
Yeah, so we vary anywhere from, like I said, about 500 to 510 licensed agents. We do have a referral program here for agents who maybe just want to be able to collect a referral bonus. So that has, I believe that's up to 30 or 40 agents right now. And so we've got those two groups underneath our license here. And we did just almost $1.45 billion in volume last year in 2024.
I'm going to choose to round up to 1.5. Okay. I'm just going to choose. Thank you for going a little short. I'm going to choose to call that one.
Perfect. Yeah. So still blows my mind that I run a company that has 500 people that did $1.45 billion in volume sales.
Yes, huge. And we're going to come back to how in the world did you manage to become the leader of that team. But first, you mentioned something to me that I want to restate. You said, before you became CEO of this business, you were an agent, and your business would have looked entirely different had you never said yes to coffee with Tyler at Cross Country Mortgage.
Yeah.
Can you share, how did that meeting come about and why did that change the trajectory of your career?
That story came to you because you had asked, what was one thing you wish agents knew as they were coming into this business that could potentially change the way that their business would go. And very often in me talking to newer agents, whether that's at real estate school or they're just simply reaching out to us because of our branding or whatever it might be, a lot of times I hear agents say no thank you to phone calls, sometimes not as kindly, but I hear them say a lot of the times no thank you. And it always blows my mind because in this business, you never know where your next sale is going to come from, literally. And so somebody in my last firm had given this lender my contact information. And she had said to him, you need to reach out to her. She's just blowing up all of a sudden. If you want a great real estate partner, Lindsay's going to be it for you.
This person reached out cold to you.
Cold.
On the recommendation of somebody else who you knew. So
100%.
Sometimes this is how this stuff happens.
Never had heard of him before. Yep. I had actually belonged to a gym close to home and there was a lender that was there who I just kind of fell into using. I was still super brand new. I mean, we're talking only maybe 6 months into my career. And Tyler called me and he was loud. And he's from Detroit. I always tease him he's from Detroit. And so he's very loud and he's very boisterous. And it just clicked with me, right? That's my personality. I can socially engineer if I need to. If a client is like not going to meet me where I am, I'm going to meet them where they are. So he called for coffee. And then I, of course, like always, had an emergency. And I'm sure he's thinking to himself, like, sure, she did. She's standing me up. But I really, truly wasn't. I really believed. I moved back from California in 2016, got my license in 18, had no sphere here. I had just my best friend from college. And I always tell people, we had a sorority sister who still is in the business. She's been in the business since we graduated college, and she dominated that college group of friends that we still kind of had together. And so I was open for conversations. I was open for learning. We ended up not being able to go grab coffee. We actually ended up going to Haberdish and grabbing fried chicken for lunch one day. And I decided that from that moment forward, I was going to be very open-minded to conversations. And Tyler and I started working together. I became his top referral agent, and he became my top referral source, right? So as a new agent, you need to write down where every sale is coming from so you can track that easily. And in my first year, because I was referring anybody who came to me to him, he started doing anybody who came to him who didn't have a realtor that was just in his life. Yep. He just started referring them to me. And that became my second year in real estate. That became my biggest referral source. And I was his. Yep. And it never would have happened if I just hadn't been open-minded to a conversation.
You can say yes to a lot of conversations,
sure,
right? And sometimes they go nowhere.
Sure.
For you to refer people to him and for him to refer people to you, you both must have stood out in some way. This is a person I can trust. This is a person I can rely on. This is a person who will do a good job for my client, potential client. How did you both know, like, yes, we're working together. This is a good relationship?
Yeah. You need to, in business, know your strengths. And we're so quick to identify our weaknesses, but you do need to understand what your weaknesses are. Full disclosure, I get busy and I get very forgetful. My husband and my kids would attest to that all day long. And I am not the best about following up. So Tyler was so amazing with following up with me that after our first conversation and our first deal together, I saw his level of communication with our client, and I knew that he was going to continue that, and I knew he was going to continue to follow up. So where my strength is in that calming personality, that educational walkthrough for my buyers and my sellers, right? Tyler's a little bit more like, I'm going to go. I'll slow it down. So where his strength is that level of communication and his weakness is that kind of bullheadedness into everything, I'm the opposite. And so that's where that trust built, because you knew that you were going to get this high level of service. You knew that the communication was always going to flow. You also knew that if you felt like I didn't answer your question right, Tyler was going to answer your question right. Yep. And if Tyler didn't answer your question right, you knew I was going to. And so it really became truly a partnership for us. And that's where it clicked. When you get really specific about that cringe-worthy, that ick feeling you get, follow up and then forgetting. I've lost lots of leads for forgetting to follow up. And so when you get that cringy feeling that that's not what you want to do every day, all day, and Tyler will pick up that phone all day, every day, that's where we knew that partnership was going to work out. He'll sit with me at a coffee shop still today and call through our people together.
I'm going to go super tactical for a second.
Go.
Because follow-up can be also cringy and icky, and where's that thing? And it can be done in a way that you're like, oh, this person feels like a scold, right? It could also be done in a way that you're like, man, that person's all smiley and exclamations, and they're genuinely trying to help me keep on track without making me feel like I'm dropping the ball, right? Yeah. There's those two very different ways of following up.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, does anything strike you of like, did he have an approach or a style of following up that you're just like, oh, I actually appreciate this. This doesn't feel like I'm being scolded.
He had a schedule, truly and honestly. He has a call schedule, and each call day has like a theme to it. And so if one day was calling, he still calls our clients right now to tell them on a quarterly basis what the equity is in their home. And that doesn't feel like that's an ick follow-up, right? That feels like it's a great follow-up. There is something great about knowing how much money you have sitting in your home, especially today. And so he's still really good at that. He sends very thoughtful emails, some tips and tricks. He uses Homebot, which is a great program that he sends out. Just gives you an idea of what's going on in your area. And so he'll follow up and say, hey, did you get that? So we have to stop saying, I'm just calling you to check in.
Yeah. Yes. There's a much more better and elevated way to do that.
There's a great word swap there. And it could be anything, right? It can be just calling. We've had a lot of clients right now who are in a phase of life where they're having babies, and there is nothing more fun than to send a text message that says, how are those sleepless nights? Or, just simple. There's a human aspect to this business. Gary Keller always says that real estate is a contact sport. And when he says that, he really means like, yes, it's a matter of picking up the phone, but there's that belly to belly contact, which sounds really weird, but there's that face to face of just sitting down and having those conversations, being that resource for somebody, right? So who do you go to when you want to fix your kitchen? I want to be that source for you, because then I want to be able to follow up and say, send me a photo. How was your first Thanksgiving in your new kitchen? Like, that's not, and hear me when I say that also has to come from a place of genuine authenticity.
100%, yes. It can't be scummy. It has to be coming from a place of, I am genuinely here to help you. And then when you then need my service, you will be thinking of me because I was genuinely there to help you first.
Right. And I'm the one who's going to call and say, how was that new kitchen table in your brand new kitchen for Thanksgiving? And Tyler's probably going to call and say, do you know how much value you just added to your house? And that's okay, because that's who he is. And I'm the Thanksgiving table person, right? And so that's okay. And that's another thing, as knowing that you can't fake this. I mean, you can, but I think then you get burnt out, because dealing with the general public is not always the easiest. So if you're very authentic in how you show up and you mean it, like, I love checking in on my people. I love when they send me projects that they've completed. I love that. I love having those conversations again. And so that's how you follow up.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Sorry, we went to very tactical, but very helpful. Authentic follow-up that's more than just, hey, checking in. Hey, did you know, based on these estimates, this is probably the equity value that you now have in your home? Like, cool, much more interesting than how are you? So, all right, so you got licensed in 2018. I'd love to now kind of paint the picture of going from licensed agent, meeting Tyler, changing your business, huge referral source. What's the path from 2018, I just got licensed, to, all right, I feel like I'm making it in this business? But did you have a moment where you're like, I can do this. I feel like I'm making it. I'm one of the ones against the odds who 2 years in, 3 years in, I feel like it's clicking. I feel like I can do this.
I did, in my first year in real estate, I did 21 transactions.
Okay, that's huge.
Yes. And sometimes I still think to myself, like, how I had something to prove to myself.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a military spouse. I had kind of put all of my different jobs and roles, right? Because it's hard. It's hard when you're a military spouse and you can move anywhere from every 7 months to we were at one location for almost 5 years. Like, I never knew what the military was going to throw for me. And if, at one point in time, my husband was gone almost 2 weeks out of every single month, and we had 2 children at the time, and it was a lot. And so I had something to prove to myself, that I had finally we moved here. I got a job in the school systems. I had quit that job to pursue real estate, which I had pursued in Massachusetts, Montana, and California.
I guess for perspective, it wasn't necessarily, I never knew about real estate ever, and I did 21 transactions in my first year. You've been, fair to say, you've been dabbling here or there for a couple years.
I'm a kid of a realtor.
Okay.
My dad has been with a brokerage since, all my life. I kind of don't remember him not doing it. And so I grew up in this world. It was something I wanted to do. My thought process was, it was easy as a military spouse to do this because that was going to be my clientele. Getting your real estate license in the time periods that I was attempting it, right? Because I don't know what's changed since then, but getting my license, that was a simple license to get. It wasn't like a teacher's license. Yeah. It wasn't, a doctor's license or an attorney with the bar. Like, it wasn't anything like that. So it was an easier license to obtain in the areas we were at the time that we were there. And so my thought was, that was who I was going to serve, and that was what I was going to do. And, just life, I went and sat for the class for my Massachusetts license when we got orders like 3 days later to go to Utah. Then they canceled those orders and wouldn't tell us, and, just little things like that. So every time God closed the door, I just had to wait. I literally just had to wait. I finally passed everything, and then I sat and twiddled my thumbs for a month. So like literally every time I was like, okay, I'm ready. Okay, I'm ready. And it just never happened. And so I had something to prove to myself that here I was. I finally had this real estate license number, and I was going to go do something. Did I intend to do 21 houses my first year? I don't think so. So the moment for me when I realized like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm actually doing it was when I got an email asking me to apply to be Rookie of the Year. I got it in for 2019 because that was my first full year of real estate, and that's how Canopy MLS does it. And so I don't know, at the time, there might have been like 10,000 agents to be Rookie of the Year or nominated for Rookie of the Year that year. I think that was the moment where I realized, like, I made it.
I proved it to myself.
I got it.
Yeah. 21 deals your first year.
21 deals my first year.
Nominated for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, didn't get it. I'm not bitter. I went out and bought myself a Louis Vuitton bag because I wasn't bitter. That was my award to myself.
That's still a pretty good reward.
It was a great reward.
It's a pretty good reward. And can you share a little bit more about those 21 transactions that first year? You had been relatively fresh to the Charlotte area, so still didn't really know a lot of people. You mentioned, I'm going to go in on people like me, military spouses, moving, et cetera. Did that end up being your market? How did you find your market? Where, where did those 21 transactions come from? Especially when you went in with a plan, and it sounds like that plan isn't actually what resulted in what drove your success. So where did those come from? How did you have that success?
So the company that I was with did online leads.
Okay.
And I was really good at converting online leads. At the time, Realtor.com and Zillow looked very different in 2018 than they do today. And so at the time, you could buy into online leads. And so my brokerage at the time bought into online leads, and I could just convert them. I don't know why. I don't have a magic sauce. I didn't say the same thing every single time. I will tell you the one thing that I did every single time. I love to connect with people, period. I love to connect, not because I'm going to always be the one that's going to help them, but I might know somebody who can. And so I love to hear the story. And I would always, in those 3 minutes, try to find some way to connect with that person.
Can you share an example? Like what's a question that you would maybe consistently ask, or when you're calling a cold lead, like, all right, they raise their hand, but let's be honest, a lot of those raise your hand cold leads are like, I didn't expect to get a call in 15 minutes. I actually didn't want to talk to them. I put my email and my phone number in because I wanted to see the value of this house or for some other reason, right? So they're still not necessarily raising their hand expecting a phone call.
No.
So can you share, how did you approach that first, 30 seconds that you have with somebody to try to establish that connection?
This is going to sound really cheesy, but I have memorized a lot of area codes for phone numbers.
Okay.
Because military, I've lived all over.
You've been everywhere.
I've been everywhere. And so that was one of the quickest ways that I connected with somebody. Oh, I see you've got an out-of-state phone number. Are you moving to the area? Have you been in the area a long time? Because I'm not originally from here either.
Boom, instant connection.
And they would always have a story. And because of the military and because we have friends everywhere, I've traveled to a lot of the states. And so that was another way to connect. Or sometimes I would simply say, I've seen this house before, because that was the other thing. Those online leads were very specific for a zip code, and I studied those zip codes. Yeah. I would preview those zip codes. So at one point in time, I was working with Zillow, and I had the Kannapolis zip codes. So I knew what was going on in those markets. I tuned into the educational board meetings and the city commissioners meetings, and I read articles about what was coming to downtown Kannapolis, right? I tried to get involved as much as I could, to the point where then my social media started to reflect that. So if you were then to get a phone call from me, I could probably speak 9 times out of 10, unless it had just hit the market, which at that time it could have very well have just hit the market. I at least knew the area. I knew other houses that were for sale. I could compare them very easily. I could tell you what was going on with the schools. I could tell you when a redistricting was coming. I could tell you what the city commissioner was doing with the areas like downtown Concord and downtown Kannapolis. And that became very personal to me. I also worked in Cabarrus County schools, so I knew a lot of those people. I knew a lot of the principals. I knew the data managers. Those are the guys who get your kid in when you move to the area. Those are your registrars in college, right? And so it really became this network for me. And then it slowly became military spouses who were moving to the area, who were where I had been back in 2015 when the military decided to retire my husband. I was like, okay, I'm sick of being this mom whose kids never have a local emergency contact. I'm going to go somewhere. I didn't have a big sphere here, but I still had somebody who could be on my kids' emergency list that wasn't on the other side of the country.
Yep.
And so that's where it started to become when people put stuff out on a Facebook page or anything that talked about, my husband's retiring from the military. I have studied the VA loan forwards and backwards. People in this office call me all the time about it. I know the phone numbers down at our local VAs to get things done. I know the articles. Becoming educated, so my niche really became moms. And more specifically, if we were going to do a category, it would have been VA spouses and moms.
And if I may, from what I heard, correct me if I'm wrong here, there's a genuine expertise on all things local to your market so that you could provide value to the client.
100%.
Not just, so you're not just like, hey, I hope you transact with me. Like, no. Here's some things coming to the area you might want to know about. I've seen this house. Here's a couple things that based on what you're looking for, this might not actually be the place. You might want to look at this one.
Yep.
You're genuinely coming from an authentic, helpful place.
100%.
And you know the market, and you're curating all this PTA meeting, council meeting, blah, blah.
All of it.
Here's what you actually need to know out of all this stuff that I've gone to. Like, you're being a curator. You're helping people with useful information. And with that little, I noticed you're a XYZ area code. You must be from here. I spent some time there. Are you moving to the area? You've got this genuine hook as opposed to, hey, I saw you called us and you're looking for a house. Like, can I help show it to you? Which maybe it's fine, but it's a little direct. It's a little, maybe it's
was
off-putting.
never I never led with that.
Yeah.
Never. It was, this is Lindsay Smith from Keller Williams Realty. I know you clicked on the house at this address. I saw you have an outside zip code. Are you moving to the area?
Yeah.
I saw this one has a pool. Is a pool your thing? Like, is that what you're looking for? Because my next house is going to have a pool.
There you go.
Or it's got a huge fenced-in backyard. Is there a reason that you're looking? Did that matter to you? Was that attractive to you? Like, that was the piece.
There's a question that shows you noticed a detail and unlocks something personal of what that person is really looking for. Like, that's where a little bit of the magic happens to 100%. Build genuine relationships. Can we flash forward a little further? So that's now 2018 into 19 is your first year. Now it's 2025, like CEO of this business with 500 agents. That's only 6 years to go from I'm new to this business, I just sold 21 myself, to my office did 1.5 billion.
Yeah.
That's a massive transition in 6 years. Yeah. How in the world did that happen? And then how did this opportunity come about?
Okay, so 2020 hit, COVID hit. My office at the time was in Charlotte. Mecklenburg County deemed real estate agents non-essential. Cabarrus County, where I lived, deemed us essential. So I was still allowed to practice in Cabarrus County. I was not allowed to practice in Mecklenburg County. Then we got really creative during that time period. And I was at home. I was homeschooling 3 children. My husband worked for the VA hospital, so that was pure chaos. My middle sister, so I'm the oldest of 3 girls. My middle sister had literally just moved to an Asian country for the military. My mom and my sister at the time worked for Yale New Haven Hospital as an ER nurse. Her world was rocked. She was pregnant. It was like literally the world shut down at my sister's baby shower.
Whoa.
It was crazy. Nothing seemed to fit right at that moment. And a very, very close friend of mine from my previous brokerage decided to make a move at that time. And I was like, I think I need to make a move. I think I need my business plan to look a little different than what it's currently looking like. And it just didn't feel like that was the right spot. I knew eventually I was going to build a team. I did not want to be opening doors on a Saturday, right? Middle school kids, elementary, my kids play sports. Like, I wanted to be there. I didn't want to miss that because up until that point, I had been a stay-at-home mom. I had done different things, but for the most part, I was always there. My kids never came home to an empty house. Like, I drove them everywhere. And so I decided in that moment that I was going to make a switch. So in September 2020, I came over to Keller Williams South Park. It was the right move for me at that time. And so I loved my previous broker in charge. I actually just saw him yesterday and said, was this ever on your bingo card for me? Like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And he's like, I don't know. I was like, thanks, Matt. I appreciate you too. We're managing 1099 employees. So take that word managing very lightly. So I really wanted to get into that coaching world. I loved the idea of talking to people, right? I was coaching so many people through VA loans, what to do with VA loans, how to do that. I really wanted to continue that on. And so when I made the move over here, I went all in. I got involved in Keller Williams Agent Leadership Council. And I remember sitting there and Beth Smith-Shuey, who unfortunately is no longer with us, not just Keller Williams, unfortunately she passed away, but I remember looking at her and saying, I want to be you when I grow up. And she looked at me and she was like, darling, you don't want to be me. And I was like, yes, I do. And she very quickly became a mentor for me. I approached the team leader at the time about potentially getting into the coaching industry. At that point in time, I think my first year here, I was like the number 4 individual agent.
Okay.
So like I was still going. I had hired a licensed assistant. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I did want to get to some type of coaching. So I started teaching classes here. Okay. And that was really a lot of fun for me, really just masterminds. I'm not very good at teaching classes. I love the idea of a good mastermind. What do you want to know? What do you need to know? Who can you put in your room that's going to help you grow your business?
And real quick, how'd that come about? Did you say, like, I'm just going to go start these?
I raised my hand.
You just raise your hand?
Well, not really. I guess I voluntold somebody that I was going to teach it, put it on the calendar. So in 2022, we had a leadership change here. And probably around April, the leader at the time had said to me, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I really want to get into the coaching world. And he was like, well, what about being my assistant team leader? And I was like, well, do I have to get out of selling real estate? And he was like, yes. And I was like, no, I'm good. I had worked way too hard to be where I was, and I was building this team finally, and I wasn't ready for the next step to hire like a true agent, right? At the time I had Jennifer, and she was handling a lot of my contract stuff. She was helping me with negotiations and inspections and all of that, and that was perfect. I wasn't ready to go further with that.
So would it be fair to say at that time, you're like, I don't want to be full-time agent selling 20, 30, 40 deals a year, knocking on like every weekend, being away from my kids, et cetera. I don't want that. But I don't want to be full-time coaching, team leader, and I'm never out selling a house. So you're thinking, I want some beautiful mix of this in between.
I did.
Where I can still be an agent in some capacity, maybe only work with referrals or people I genuinely want to work with, and I want to do a lot more coaching. So it sounds like I might be looking for a unicorn situation. I want the best of all worlds.
I did.
And here comes an opportunity. Nope, that's not my unicorn. So what happened? What happened next after that to go find that situation?
He asked me like 2 or 3 more times, and I was like, I'm good. I was out to breakfast with my husband on Veterans Day in 2022, and I got a phone call, and he was like, you're not listening. I said, I don't want that role. He's like, no. I want you to take my role. And I was like, whoa. Absolutely not. Because in that moment, like, yes, I had won the awards. Yes, I had been nominated for Rookie of the Year. Yes, I had. And listen, I outsold the person who actually won Rookie of the Year, which was very interesting to me. But that's a story for a different day. I'm still bitter all these years later. She's a great agent, by the way. She's fantastic. But anyway, I was the number 4 agent in this office. Then I was the number 4 again. And then I was the number 5 agent, right? So like, but still never, I've got big teams in this office. I have big agents in this office, right? Like team-wise, I have the Bolos team, and I have Redbud, and I have Paul Jameson just on that team side. And then I remember thinking like on the individual side, like I've got Beth Smith-Shuey, I had Matt Cox, like I had some really solid big agents. That's not who I thought I was going to ever coach or consult. I was talking about like the new agent, right? Like, cause I had this like inferior complex. I was like, there's no way that anybody's going to want to sit and let me, cause that's part of this role is really like, what does your business plan look like? Yeah. What are your goals? Then the big one is like, what do your financials look like? People are not hungry to share their financials. And so I felt like I was almost an imposter coming in, and I was like, no. And he was like, well, you just go through the process. And I was like, I'll go through the process. There's some self-discovery there, right? I went through the process in December of 2023. Yeah, December 2022, the role was offered to me.
And this is after 6 months of
basically,
no thanks. No, you're not listening to me. Okay, maybe I'll go through the process.
Went through the process. Also was very specific in I was going to hire somebody then to take over. Forever Home Carolina is my real estate business. Very few people in that office know this, but that is my real estate business. And so I was not willing. In the military, it had very personal, sentiments to me. In the military, we talk about our forever home very differently than anybody else talks about their forever home. We don't pick our homes 9 times out of 10, right? And so for me, that was something that I had aspired to for so many years. I wasn't going to give that up. And so I was very clear that I was not giving up my real estate role, which is very different than a lot of these team leaders run, because it's a very demanding job. I love it. But when you're in an office my size, it's a very demanding job. And I can't just drop everything and go show a house. So my friend went through real estate school, and she came on in February of 2023. I took this role January 9th of 2023. And on January 12th, they sent me to Austin, Texas to go meet with some of the big people. I was trained by Mark King, who was the CEO of all of Keller Williams Realty International. And I still have my book, they give you the booklets. Mm-hmm. And I still have my book where I wrote down what is an MCA? Once again, it's Keller lingo, but that is that's our market center admin who operates like a director of operations. I didn't even know. That's my right-hand person, and I didn't even know what that acronym meant.
This imposter syndrome is something that many people in many industries face. New agents are going to feel it. A ton of people are going to feel that.
Yeah.
As you're going through this process, and you listed off some names of some big hitters in this office who, if you go get that role, they're now looking to you for mentorship, guidance, leadership, coaching, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
How did you get over that imposter syndrome? What stopped you from that being a limiter to take that role?
You have to speak up. And that's what I did sitting in that class on July 12th. Mark King was talking about the Team Leader Hall of Fames. And I decided, number one, I wanted to be in that Team Leader Hall of Fame. At the time, there was only 53 team leaders. Know that there's 800 market centers on average in the United States that have team leaders. There's only been 53.
Yeah.
I wanted spot 54,
which
required a 5-year minimum in this role. If you're not here for 5 years, you don't get that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, that's commitment goal number 1.
Yeah.
And once I told Mark that, he said, well, what do you think is going to be your biggest hurdle? And I said, let me explain this. I have Trent Corbin, Todd Akers, Jim Fagan, Paul Jameson in my office. Those guys put up numbers that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
How am I going to have a conversation with them? And Mark went, oh my goodness. In a class of 75 of my peers, he went, oh my goodness, I love Paul Jameson. And he picks up the phone on speaker and he calls Paul in front of all these people. I was bright red, sweating. I was like, get me out of this classroom. And he called Paul's office, and the poor receptionist picks up the phone and, says Jameson Realty. And Mark goes, hey, this is Mark King. And the receptionist goes, hey, Mr. King, is Paul expecting your phone call? And he was like, no, not at all. And she was like, oh, okay, good, because he's not here today. You could probably reach him on his cell phone. So hangs up, calls Paul's cell phone. And Mark says, calls him, puts him on speaker again. And he's like, hey, Paul Jameson. And Paul's like, hey, Mark, what do I owe this pleasure? And he's like, actually, I'm sitting here with your new team leader. And I was like, oh my God. Why me? I didn't want this role. Now I'm in Austin 2 days later, and now the CEO is calling my biggest. I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I don't even know what MCA is. What am I doing? Paul said something that I think definitely started that trajectory of I need to get out of my own way. And he said, I am so excited to have Lindsay in this role because I think she'll do it differently. And I was like, okay. Now, the first year I didn't try to do it differently. I just tried to be the other 2 previous team leaders. They were both extremely successful. And so I wasn't going to stray. It didn't feel authentic.
What are the types of things that are Keller Williams specific, that's just, this is how we do things, or this is how our office does things. You're like, I want to keep that. I want to keep doing those things. And how do you put your flavor on? How do you build that bridge of, here's the things I want to maintain, but here's the things I want to sprinkle on or do a little bit differently? How do you decide what those are? And then ultimately, change is hard.
Sure.
For 500 people.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's welcomed, sometimes it's not.
Absolutely.
So it's one thing to say, I'd like to do these couple things differently. It's a whole other one to go explain that, why, and get 500 people on board with those things. So how did you approach that?
Yeah. Funny. I was also, because I came in during COVID, the office was really like at a limited amount of people in the office. I didn't know a lot of people, and a lot of people didn't know me. Yeah. I knew my people, but a lot of people didn't know who I was, right? A lot of people, there were comments when this role was first announced that I was going to be taking it over. And the two previous team leaders were very well known in the organization as very successful rainmakers of their own teams. Here I am, this individual agent. Like it was very different. And so I tried not to shake the boat too much. I definitely felt like I kept a lot of things that were very similar. We kept team meetings the same. We have a coaching program here for new agents when they first came on. We didn't touch that for a very long time. I didn't touch my leadership staff for a very long time. And so I left a lot of that the same. It's really hard when you come in as the head of a leadership team. When you're hired for another CEO or another team leader or even a rainmaker, right? You connect with that person. There is something about personalities that need to work. And so that was very hard for me when the personalities weren't working, but they were consistent in the office. And so I got a lot of slack with changes that I made, but I knew that in order to do this authentically, I needed people who aligned with me. And once again, I'm going to go back to Tyler was the opposite of me, right? Michelle is now my MCA. I know what MCA is. And she was one of my first hires onto my leadership team. Michelle and I had worked together at our previous brokerage. I finally got her, myself and many other agents, finally got her over here. And I knew that Michelle was who I needed to be able to succeed in this role, because Michelle is very much the opposite of me. I'm that nurturer. I'm that hugger. I'm that, Molly D'Amatos up in Asheville she's like, who's the implementer and who's the snuggler? Yeah. I'm the snuggler all day. That's who I am. That's just what I do. Michelle is very much that implementer. And I knew she would hold me to my tasks. She still does. But she would do it in a way that I would respond to it. Because like you said, you can't come in and just upset people, right? Yep. And so you can't come off feeling, just turning people off with your suggestions or comments. So things like that. Now, that was one of the smartest decisions I've ever made for this office, in my personal opinion, because I just know that it's given me the ability to then be authentic. I think in 2024 was the year that I was like, I have to do this my way. I have to do this my way. There was a moment in February of 2024 where I very, very specifically recognized that, and I don't say this as like there's a very humble, prideful verbiage to this, I guess you can say, but this is my office. Not mine in I don't know how to explain it. These are my people. These are my agents, and I take pride in who they are and what they have accomplished. I take pride in my leadership team and what they do and what they have accomplished. It's not pride for me, it's pride for them. So when I say my office, that's not this snobby ownership comment. This is truly I love these people and I want the absolute best for them. And so running that, I realized in February of 2024 that this was going to have to become my office, that I was going to really have to step up and take charge and make it what I wanted it to be. I needed to listen to those agents. I needed to get over my fear of this, being less than, not enough, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's when it clicked. Can
you share a little bit more about what clicked? What happened after that?
Yeah, I had an outside agent have a conversation with me, and he said, I don't think I want to come to KW. I want you to come work for me. And I was like, but why? You want to work with me? And he's like, yes, with who you are. And I was like, oh shoot.
So that one simple sentence all of a sudden bubbled up these feelings of I'm trying to be who they want me to be, but maybe I'm not quite being myself, and maybe I can't quite articulate that. And then all of a sudden in this one conversation that just like that just
was
kind of
it.
Clicked. Wow.
That was it.
And so like, what did you do differently like that day or the
I just
next day?
I went back to being me.
Yeah.
Right? I wasn't being this like, I was laughing yesterday with somebody in the Keller Williams world. I tease them all the time. And I have gotten myself into lots of trouble. I've gone through the gauntlet of CEOs. The next CEO after Mark King was Mark Willis. And I went down to a top 100 mastermind. And I had made a comment basically to the effects of like, we have our models at KW. We believe in them. Gary wrote a whole book about it, right? It's great. The models don't matter to me the way that they matter to a lot of other people. I know them, but the person is who matters to me the most. So the culture of KW is what matters the most to me. And yes, that culture is getting our agents into productivity, getting new agents into productivity, keeping our top producers in productivity, being creative in how we're doing that. I mean, that's where this whole podcast room came about, was because agents were anxious for a space, and there's not a whole lot of spaces around Charlotte like this. And so we built this knowing like this was something our agents wanted to get in front of the cameras more. And so this is what we built for them. That's the pieces that I think changed, is I went to doing that, to listening to our agents. But more importantly, like, I know the agent. Listen, I would love to know all 500 stories. If you sit with me and you share it with me, I'll never forget it. But I like knowing, I work a lot with my top agents, and I love knowing their personal stories. I love knowing their families. That's just a carryover. I think I went from, I've got to be this CEO, right? I don't have a business degree. I don't read all of these books. I tease Vince Mariani in Charleston. Like, he reads everything. I'm like, can I just have like a rom-com book, please? And he's like, how about you read The Psychology of Money? I'm like, okay, we're very different. And we're both very successful because we're so different. Yep. If you asked Vince, he probably doesn't know the kids' names of a lot of his agents. I do. I know the basics of the models. He could literally refer to the page in the book without even looking at it. Yeah. And I thought that's what I needed to be. And time again, I'm proven that that is not who I was created to be, and that's not why I'm in this role. And so I've just leaned into that. I went back and put on my agent hat and said, if all of these were my clients, how would I treat them? Because I was a good agent. Yeah. And so that flip of was just, that's where we're at.
We come back again to this concept of being authentic, knowing who you are, knowing your strengths and weaknesses. And those concepts can apply not just to CEO of 10-person firm, 100, 500, whatever it is. It also applies to someone who's just a new agent right now who's trying to figure out, how do I succeed in this? How do I succeed in this business in this first year, which typically is maybe the hardest year to figure it out.
Absolutely.
And there's all kinds of people, hey, here's what I do it this way, do this, try this, do this. There's a lot of it that just is being authentic to yourself, which you shared a little bit of how you approach those internet leads, your genuine curiosity, trying to add value. I am curious when it comes to more new agents being authentic, why should they come here? Like, yeah. What advice do you try to instill in them, or what are some things that you try to, you and the team, the whole team here, try to guide them to beat the odds and be successful in this first year?
One of the biggest things that I guess I did when I moved here is Keller Williams is known for what they call productivity coaching, right? And if you said that in a Keller Williams room, they all would know what you were talking about. This is where I relied on the models. Yeah. Gary talks a lot about your foundation. Gary said something, so I was in a room with him. So Gary Keller he's in charge of all of KW, right? Like he's the founder of this company. He is the Keller and Keller Williams. Joe Williams, lesser known, but he is the Williams in Keller Williams. And so he said, this is not a try profession. So many of us come into this and we're like, I'm just going to try this.
I'm going to give this a chance for a couple of months.
We'll see if it works. Yeah. We'll see how this goes. And he was like, this is not a try profession. And I think that was really a big thing. So we changed our PC coaching, our productivity coaching. We changed it to foundational coaching. Because Gary says when you build this triangle, your first thing is like your foundational piece, right? and you get those systems, those tools, those models that you need that make your business work for you. You master that, and he draws a triangle. And then on the top is your creativity. If you flip it the other way around and you put the triangle on its pointy side, it falls because it's top heavy. And so if you were to build your business, which I tried to do on just creativity, instead of the simplicity of the foundations, who am I talking to on a daily basis? Yeah. It does not have to be creepy or cringy. People, like, I'll sit at a coffee shop and people hear me on the phone and they'll just approach me. Like, it doesn't have to be creepy. Like, we think it has to be this weird thing. I could put something out on social media. Like, it doesn't, we overthink this. We go into this and we're like, well, I don't want to be a used car salesman. So I'm going to chase the next shiny thing. I'm going to try. Listen, online leads works for some people and for some people it doesn't. It is expensive now. It's hard, especially in our Charlotte market. It's very different than elsewhere, right? I know somebody spending tens of thousands of dollars on leads a month. Hear me when I say that. A month. Like, coming in as a new agent, I didn't have tens of thousands of dollars. Okay. So you have to do, one of my favorite things is build this foundation, know your 3 lead sources, whatever you want to focus on. I'm not here to tell you that you're going to focus on cold calling. Because let me tell you, if you had ever called me and said, Lindsay, you're going to build your business on cold calling, I would have laughed at you. Bring me, that lead would come to me and I would connect. That's a different story. But I was not going to just pick up the phone and like randomly call through a list that I had gotten from somewhere, right? That wasn't ever going to be my lead source. And so, but open houses sure did really well for me. I loved open houses. And so, and the more that you get really specific about how you market those open houses and the effort you put into those open houses means you get more success. So my goal was always 2 people from every open house. That was my goal.
When we say 2 people, like
I wanted 2 buyers. Nope. I wanted 2 buyers signed at that open house.
Oh, wow. You were going for like, I want a signed client at this open house.
100%.
Wow.
I want to have a scheduled meeting to go look at their house that they need to sell. Or I want a time where we're going to sit down with a lender and get them pre-approved. Like, I wanted the next appointment. Like, I had to come out with the next appointment to either sign that buyer's agency agreement through a buyer consult, get the lender pre-approval. Like, it didn't matter. It had to be something substantial like that. That was my goal. That's the other thing. You got to set a goal. And listen, I talk with a lot of new agents and I hear them all. There is a magical number in real estate. Do you know what the magical number is?
I think we all want to know what the magical number is.
Everybody wants to make $100,000 their first year in real estate.
Because
is it doable?
Yes. But
is it realistic and is it for you? Is $100,000 what you actually need? Is that going to be enough in your budget? Are you going to stress yourself out? What are your hours look like that you're going to have to put in? Because this is not a 9-to-5 job. There is time freedom in this, but there is not that flexibility that everybody talks about, right? You can choose not to go show a house on the weekend. You can choose to ask somebody to step up and help you with that because you have something going on. But there's not this flexibility that everybody talks about. There is some time freedom of, I need that Tuesday from 12 to 2 off to go see my kids play or go drop my car off or whatever. Yes, there's that, but there's not this immense flexibility in the world, right? Like, we were out showing houses Monday all day. From like, my partner was out showing houses from 12 to 5 on Monday. Like, that's not really flexible.
And when they need you, you can't say, oh, but I had this thing I was going to go do. Because they have flexible working hours.
Right.
Like, they
really don't.
They need to go see the house now.
Yes. Now, we are in a market where it's slowed down and you don't have to jump like you used to have to jump within 3 seconds. But, you know, you still want to get out there. You want to show them because ultimately you want them to buy a house. And here's the thing. We don't want them to buy a house because we want the commission check. We want to see them on their next phase in life. And so you got to know what your goal is. I think that is one of the biggest things that agents don't understand. You've got to know your 3 sources, whatever they're going to be. And they don't have to stay the same. Mine have evolved as I have become, right? Referrals are now one of my top sources, both from other agents. KW has a military community. That military community has been very good to me. Whether they're agent-to-agent referrals or past clients or your vendor partners.
Or Tyler at Cross Country Mortgage.
Tyler at Cross Country.
You never guessed was going to be one of your foundational aspects of your triangle, but you say yes to a bunch of things, and then all of a sudden 6 months later, you're like, wow, I got I got 4 closed deals from Tyler. Like, all right, he's now part of my number.
Correct.
Yeah. You
and
go
you
back and
focus on those. And then if you've got time, you could do maybe 4 and 5. But like, that's it. At some point in time, they said, we have to stop making lead gen our life. And instead, we have to make our lifestyle our lead gen.
Can you share an example of what that might look like?
Yeah, you love pickleball?
Yeah.
What are you doing with your pickleball people? Number one, do they even know you're in real estate?
Number one.
Not in a cringy way. Please stop being cringy. Please, just be authentic. When you meet a new pickleball group or any group and you introduce yourself, and as the conversation flows, somebody's always going to say to you, well, what do you do?
Yep.
What do you do?
Out of curiosity, how have you answered that? What are some ways that you've answered that question for yourself?
I get to help people find their American dream and buying a home.
That sounds a lot better than I sell real estate. Are you looking right now?
Doesn't it though?
It sounds a lot better.
So I've been working with, there's a book called Exactly What to Say. Phil Jones wrote it. And I've gone to a couple of his trainings, and I'm working with his brother right now on kind of building a business and a business mindset, I would even say. And we talk a lot about simple swaps.
Yeah. Right? Like simple swaps in the way that you say things.
Yes, because your words matter and you don't realize that your words matter. And so by literally everybody cringes lately, especially, listen, after the lawsuit, everybody cringes about real estate agents. And we're going to continue to be under fire. We are the scapegoats right now. So how do you phrase what you do? My favorite thing is helping military members find that forever home, right? That's my favorite thing. And here's the other thing. I'm not afraid for my content on social media or wherever to talk to military spouses, because there's a lot of value that I provide in that somebody else is like, oh my gosh, on that video you talked about schools. Well, that has nothing to do with the VA loan.
Yeah. And
so they're like, oh, well, you could help me with that, right? And you're like, of course I can. I went and did a video of downtown Kannapolis, and there are 2 veteran-owned businesses, and we focused a lot on their veteran-owned businesses, right? Yeah. They let me use their office, open and close, and they have shared my video multiple times, and I got a deal off of that.
Yeah.
But that was me representing veteran businesses, because that's my niche.
Exactly. You've been now in this business for 7-8 years-ish. Your dad's been in the business for a long time.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your perspective of just what's a number one trend that you see right now here mid-2025 that's got you energized? What's something you're like, ooh, this could be interesting? And what's maybe something on the opposite side of like, this doesn't seem to be going as well as I'd hope, or I'm not sure where this is going to lead. So any trends going on right now?
I think I get the behind the curtain look, I guess you could call it, because I talk to so many of our agents here. And lately the conversation, so the market is definitely starting to pick back up. In our world, when you have about 6 months of inventory, you're considered pretty much a neutral market, that 5 to 6 months, right? So when I first got into the business, we were at 2.9 months, right? So that's a seller's market.
And that was in 2017.
That was
2018. We were already running hot then. Got even hotter.
We were down to not even a full month during 2020, 2021, right? Yeah. We slowly started to move over. The other day, I think we were at 3.4 months, which is a big high for us in that. And so one of the things we've always talked about in this industry, your biggest ROI, your biggest return of investment is always going to be listings, right? It's just what it is, because listings take time. Don't get me wrong. And you still have to market and you still have to make phone calls, but there's just a different level that's needed to work with a seller versus a buyer 9 times out of 10, because you're not driving all around, right? And I'm not saying stick a sign in the yard and call it a day. Please hear me when that is not we reverse prospect, we hold open houses, we do a lot of that, but it's different. It's just not as time consuming, right? And so you're getting a better return on listings. We went from this market of everything going in 3 seconds to now our average days on market were 30 to 40. I can't remember back in June. I can't remember exactly what Canopy published, but we were somewhere around that 30 to 40 day mark. We understand that as agents, getting our sellers to hear that number, the media still is out there it's going. It's still a seller's market, because technically we're doing numbers. It is.
Yeah, but it's not what it was 2-3 years ago.
It is not. Yeah. It's not. And so I think that agents The trend I'm seeing right now is agents want to work with buyers, which is very different than what it used to be. And I think that's amazing because buyers now are getting, they were always, I can't speak for everybody. My world, they always got a high level of service, but now they can get a higher level. We can really research an area for you. Like we were already pre-researching. Now I can go deeper. I can make more phone calls. I can try to pull permits prior to us seeing the house. Like I've got time to show you the house. I've got time for you to think about buying a house. Yeah. And that to me has been fantastic. Just seeing it pick back up. We had some of our agents have the best Januaries they've had all their careers this year. And then it kind of stalled. I think that people are getting used to I don't want to say the political landscape, but I guess that they're settling more.
Yeah.
There's maybe not as much fear, or maybe the fear is in different areas now. Interest rates don't seem to be as burdensome as they used to be. It was such a manufactured interest rate back in 2020 and 2021. Yeah. I don't know we would be silly to go back to those numbers. Yeah. And so I think that people are starting to hear those numbers. I think that that's starting to settle a lot. I think that people are having more and more conversations. We're seeing a lot more of the baby boomers taking out HELOCs and things like that for down payments on children or grandchildren's homes. So we're definitely seeing a lot more of that movement. And we're seeing buyers be pickier, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Number one piece of advice for a brand new agent, maybe in their first month, 3 months, 6 months. What's something you wish more people would consider or go do? What's that number one piece of advice? Move
from fearful to fearless and move fast. You will be so fearful of what you're doing that you're going to mess up, because that's what they drill into you in real estate school, no offense, because that's what the test, right? It's a scary test in North Carolina. Yeah. And so in my opinion, it produces this sense of like, I'm going to mess up and I don't know what I'm doing. And I still sometimes don't know what I'm doing. And sometimes I still have to call somebody and be like, am I doing this right? Like, did I miss something, right? Just the other day, I called my transaction coordinator and I said, Natalie, what am I missing? Like, she's like, what? I'm like, what am I missing? And she's like, I didn't think I was going to hear that from you. I see thousands of deals run through this door every day. And I still had to call and be like, what am I missing? Help me. Don't let anybody know. No, I'm kidding. I don't care. You can know that I mess up. I still mess up. I still get my transactions kicked back to me for missing an initial or a signature or something. So you just have to do it.
Move fast, but also have someone to call when you know, like, I'm stuck. Like, I've built those relationships already of like, who are you going to call when you're stuck? So you can go get an answer.
That's really specific to this office, in my opinion, right? On top, we've got the coaches that are here in that office. But on top of that, we really have a designated space in this office for new agents to walk into with each other. And so not necessarily for like contract questions, because don't ask a new agent about contract questions, but have a new agent who is willing to do an open house with you. Have a new agent who is willing to do an event with you. Have a new agent who's willing to go door knock with you if that's what you want to do. Or, we have agents who come together and do bridal expos or dog park expos, or, so here you can walk in and know that all of these agents in that room, 9 times out of 10, are going to be newer agents that are probably hovering in that fearful phase. Do you want to practice what you say after an open house? Do you want to practice like, what do you think of this? Or help me with this? And I think that's the important piece.
Practice. Keep working those. Here's how to say this way, not that way.
Yeah.
Any final words of wisdom? Anything that we haven't hit on? Advice to agents out there that maybe we haven't talked about that you want to share?
Yeah.
Or maybe something so useful and so good that you're like, I want to say this again. So any new or repeated final words of wisdom for agents out there?
I think that you just have to go in and you've got to know what your goal is. And it can't be that secret number of $100,000, because maybe that's not what you need that first year. Know what you really need. I heard somebody refer to a live budget and what that looks like. And you actually start at the bottom and you work your way up. What's enough, to survive? And that's where you might have to live that first year in real estate. Yeah. And that's okay. Don't have your savings. Gosh, people, please have your savings. please, 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 just because you never know, even if you're not coming into this industry, please have some savings because you never know what's going to hit. Find a firm that feels like home. And that sounds totally cheesy and totally cliche, but I will tell you that there is a feeling when you walk into this office that it does, like somebody just yesterday said to me, I'm coming home. Find that for yourself. Yeah. Find that for yourself, wherever that is. It does not have to be KW South Park. Find that. Find those people that are going to support you. When you're talking about mentorship, because you must talk about a lot about mentorship at Superior, know what that really means. Are they still in the real estate business? Are they going to have that time for you? Because if they're not, then you've just been sold on something you need and aren't going to get.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Lindsay, thanks so much. We got an incredible story from Rookie of the Year 2018-19 to no, I don't want that job multiple times in 2022 to CEO of a $1.5 billion Keller Williams office. Congratulations on all your success and doing it your way and doing it authentically. Thanks for sharing your story.
Thanks. I appreciate this, and I appreciate the partnership with you guys. It's been fantastic.